Oh, okay. Well, welcome. Once
Hello,
again,
everyone.
there's a little bit of uh issue on the software we use. So anyways, welcome to this week's AMA. Yeah, we're going to go through some stuff today. If you have any questions, you can throw them in the YouTube live chat or the Twitter live chat. Let's keep it farmer friendly. Have a good time. And yeah, don't need to bring up Luke. Here he is.
Here I am. Yeah, no, so excited for the same mate. What we're gonna go over today is kind of an update on where things are at, what's coming out soon. I kind of wanted to go over some of the higher level today of how I think things are going, how we're going to change some of our approaches to a bunch of stuff. What I think is going well, what I think is not going well with Pixels right now, and what we're going to be doing about all of that too. So yeah, also we'll use this time to go through questions also, because I'm sure you guys are going to have some. Also comments and feedback are welcome. So things that you guys think we're doing well, things that you guys want to see changed, things that you guys are frustrated with, things that you guys like please leave those in the comments. Let us know some of your feedback, thoughts, criticism, all this kind of stuff. It's welcome. And yeah, let us know. So yeah, state of the game right now. Oh yeah, staking is probably the big thing, right? We're getting a few questions. When staking, a few of that. So let me give you guys the update on where we're at. We're trying to get staking out next week. It depends on a couple of different things. So we're basically wrapping up audits right now. We have to test it in production. We want to make sure that it's all good on mainnet. So optimistic timeline is to get it out next week. We'll kind of have a better feel of it as we test through this weekend if it's good to go. We have it testing in like Saigon right now, and it looks good. Everything's there. But we want to make sure that there's nothing like majorly wrong first. So we got it audited. We got the audit back on Tuesday. There's a few things we're fixing up with the audit. If everything looks good, we're going to be testing over the weekend, and it'll go live on probably next week, midweek. If not, it might have to go a little bit later. Believe me, we want to get it out as quick as possible. We also want to make sure that it goes out with no issues. So what we're going to be doing with staking too is that's when we're going to also be adding in the withdrawal tax. We wanted to basically launch them together. The withdrawal tax is ready to go. But we think it makes sense to go with staking when we do that whole big announcement on how it works and kind of the end goal here. But this basically plays into what our bigger strategy is. So let me kind of explain to you guys what we're thinking now. Yeah. So basically what we're thinking right now is, what are the right ways to, or actually let me reframe this. So right now at Pixels, we talked in the last AMA about how in good markets, some mistakes that you make can get kind of not overlooked, but you get more grace with mistakes that you're making inside of the game. And this is actually a great point here too. Staking not equal gameplay. I'm excited about staking, but it shouldn't be half an AMA. So let me explain to you guys how we think about this stuff right now. One, the token is a really big, important part of what we're doing here at Pixels, right? The end goal and what we're trying to achieve here at Pixels is we're trying to figure out how to build a great Web3 game and make all of the different pieces work inside of the game, right? And to build a Web3 game, how I am kind of thinking about it now is I think there's like 3 or 4 different parts, right? The first part is, and this comes before everything else, you need to make a game that people like, they love, and they want to play because it's fun, right? But that's also not enough. What you also need to figure out is how to make the rest of the game sustainable too. So you have to think about game economy. You have to think about token economy. That's also very, very important, right? A lot of people are frustrated with the token economy right now because of recent market performance and all this kind of stuff too. So if you're not thinking about that, whether you like it or not, the gameplay is not enough in building a Web3 game. It is all tied together, right? Like all of these things are interlinked. You have to think about rewards and that kind of distribution and how to do that right. And you also have to build out mechanics that basically align everybody's interests too, right? If we were to build a game where nobody inside of the game earned, we took all of the profits inside of the game, it's basically just a Web 2 game, right? Like we're not really using the benefits of Web 3. But then if we also made a game where basically only the people who had their own interest in mind just to sell the token and leave the ecosystem, like that's not good for the game and the ecosystem either. So what you need to do is you need to kind of figure out how all of these things work together, right? And I kind of have it in 3 different buckets right now in my mind. Basically gaming gameplay, like token mechanics, and then data science. And if I'm looking back in the last year, there's some things that we got right when it came to direction and what we're doing. And then there's some things that we maybe over-indexed on. Like one of the things that we're working on right now is basically a smart reward system. How we can use data science, basically figuring out what users do with rewards and who to give the right rewards to in order to achieve that goal of basically giving out tokens to the people who are most likely to use them inside of the game. However, only using that approach is maybe not the right approach. There's also some other things that we maybe should have done earlier on that would have maybe helped the game and ecosystem better too. Like a really obvious one is what we're doing here with staking and this withdrawal tax. And I can kind of explain to you guys the mindset behind this one, right? So one of the issues inside of the game right now is we're not really rewarding people who hold the token and who care about the ecosystem in the long run, right? Like really a lot of the rewards are really oriented right now around people who immediately sell the token and then don't have any stake in the long term, right? So here's an interesting loop that we're about to add, right? We're about to introduce staking inside of the game. And staking will be coming ideally next week. If not, it will go the week after. And basically what will happen is, people who hold the token and who think more about the long term of Pixels will be rewarded more, right? What we're going to be doing is we're also going to be implementing withdrawal fee. And when you withdraw the token, you're going to have to pay a percentage of the pixel that you're withdrawing as a fee, right? Now, if you think about this on the surface level, it sounds like we're just being a little greedy here, right? Like we're like, oh, we want to take a portion of your withdrawal fees, and like the Pixels team is keeping it for themselves, right? But it's actually not how the system works. How the system works is most of the in-game purchases and fees that are done inside of the game are actually going to people who are holding the token, the stakers of the game, right? So it creates a really interesting loop where when we start to have people who want to sell the token, they're going to have to pay a fee, and that fee is actually going to be given to the people who are holding the token, right? So we're looking for more loops like that. Like, how can we basically create a system that rewards the people who have long-term belief in this game and ecosystem? And how can we use certain mechanics along with data science and along with the gameplay to kind of create the best system for people who also care about the long term of the ecosystem rather than just like, I'm getting the token, selling it, and then leaving immediately, right? We want long-term interest and we want long-term alignment here. So yeah, that's kind of the ideal situation with the staking system. And if anybody has any questions around staking in this AMA, feel free to go and bring them up because we can kind of dive into that. But again, it's going to be a different approach to earnings moving forward, actually. One example, if we were to go like in the full extreme, is, if we actually started leaning earnings way more to people who hold the ecosystem tokens, and to lean earnings way more to people who actually have a long-term interest inside of the game. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff we're going to dig into there. But yeah, that's kind of the main goal and idea. So the other thing that we'll dive into is some of the recent gameplay updates today. We'll kind of go into some questions there. And Heidi, if you see any interesting questions, star them. We can bring them up later. But yeah, one change that we just did inside of the game recently was we also started to attack some of the botting inside of the game a little bit more too. There's a few different approaches that we'll be doing over the next couple of weeks there. And let me fill you in on the mindset here with this. So a really abrupt change that we just introduced inside of the game yesterday was we had a much larger requirement to use the marketplace inside of the game. The reason why we did this is where a lot of the abuse from the bots was coming from in their main attack point. What they would do is they would go farm resources on specs, and they would use the marketplace to go wash trade, basically. They would go list some of these items on the marketplace. They would go like basically exchange coins in the marketplace to get around trading. And it was basically an attack vector. So increasing, at least for now, the reputation needed to use the marketplace as something much higher has basically cut that out, which is great. So now what you're starting to see is you're starting to see some economic effects from that. Like the tier 1 and the tier 2 resources are becoming a bit more expensive now, right? And those of you who are optimizing inside of the game, your CPP, that might be going a little bit higher now. But here's the end goal behind this, right? So inflation is a complicated thing, right? Um, Inflation can come from a few different things, right? Inflation can come from money printing. It can come from things like, this is almost like equivalent to a tariff in a way, where we're basically like, it's not really, we're basically decreasing the supply of key elements inside of the game because they're no longer abused in the same way. So that will inherently make things more expensive. Now, what's interesting is the goal here is this should also make the work that you're doing when you're farming these resources worth it more too, right? There's two ends of it. When you're playing the game and you're only going through the marketplace to go and buy the things you need for the task board, yes, these things become more expensive. If you don't farm any of the resources yourself and you're just buying coins and then going to the marketplace to go and do the task board, these, like, the CPP is increased of these things too. But what you're maybe not seeing on the other end is if you go and farm these resources, there's less of them on the marketplace now, and you're probably going to be able to make more coins from these resources if you're actually the one farming them and doing them yourself, right? So there's trade-offs here. Now, there's some other interesting things that we can do when it comes to the task board, where now that the resources are becoming less scarce, and we'll see how this goes for the next couple of weeks, that might mean that we can lower the requirements in the task board for the turn-ins that you need to do, right? They have to be a little high if we're kind of balancing them towards coin and marketplace prices, right? But as your coin earning ability might increase, because resources are starting to become more scarce. That might mean that we need less resources per task, right? So there's two ends of the equation here that we're working on. I see a few more questions about, yeah, so cyber implants feedback is, I'm not a buyer, but a grinder. I do everything I can manually, but 501 Clarisite matrix, come on. Yeah, no, so some of these tasks are a lot of work right now. One of the things that we might try to do is figure out how to target some of these rewards better and to make some of them feel more worth it for the right subset of users too. So there's more stuff coming here too. I would agree some of these tasks seem quite hard to do in this recent update. And yeah, let me kind of give you an insight into how we think about this stuff, just so that we're on the same page about it, basically. What we're trying to do is we want to make the game as fun as possible. We want to make sure that the game is balanced when it comes to economy too, right? So there's a lot of work that we had to do to actually make the game balanced better. It was quite off in the very beginning stages, right? And the end goal with the earnings that we're giving out inside the game is we basically want to make sure that earnings are going to the people who like and care about the game the most and who have the game's best interest in mind. And I would actually say that Cyber Implant, not to like specifically call her out, is actually one of those people when I like look at like how we're doing when it comes to game performance and giving out earnings to the right people. She's actually one of the people who I think is like an ideal Pixels player. There's love for the game here. They give feedback. It's not always positive, but sometimes, they're just like speaking their mind, and it's generally good, right? Like this is the kind of player who I would think their feedback in particular is very aligned with our intention and our goals. When we think about feedback and what we're trying to build here is there is certain types of user feedback that is not helpful as well too. So when we think about where the direction of Pixels should go, what we need to be doing here is we need to be building a game that people love, that's fun, and we need to be building for that audience, right? There are different types of players that play the game, right? There's some players who really like what the game could be or like the game as is now, and they have feedback in ways that they think the game can be more fun or just more enjoyable as they're playing day to day. And there are some people who, their idea of good gameplay is just, can I earn the most possible? And what I will like confidently say is the first category of people are the people that we care about when we think about their feedback, right? Because if we're building a game that they care about and they like and they're enjoying, then the earned people will probably do well also, right? But basically, none of these earnings can come if there's nobody that's willing to use the token inside of the game. And that's also where it aligns with how we're kind of changing the earning strategy inside of the game too. So one of the things that we're working on with staking, and this is why these things are interconnected, is we're going to start to give more earnings to the people who have the tokens in the game, right? So one thing that we talked about last week was if you have an in-game balance, we're actually going to start to stake that in-game balance on your behalf. So literally just having Pixel in-game, you'll start to have staking earnings from the game as well too, right? So it's aligned, right? If you hold more tokens, you don't have to do anything with it. You can have those tokens to spend, but your basic in-game Pixel balance will be staked. The other thing that is very interesting is the staking in-game and the rewards coming from that is tied to the in-game economic activity. So basically, anytime you spend on coins or Quicksilver or anything like this, that's going to help increase the earnings from staking's pool, right? So basically, the in-game activity, the in-game spend is very, very linked to the staking rewards. And it creates a good loop there too, where the people who are holding in-game balance, and the more that people spend and the more game that we build, the better that we have too. So it's kind of a difference, right? The token utility is the important thing. And
Wait, I'm
uh,
so by this comment. Sorry to
I
cut
do
you off. We're literally here. What do you mean? Every week. Sorry, I don't understand. Maybe it's poor translation. And then someone said you move a lot.
Oh yeah, no, I do. I need to not get a spinning chair.
Alien or something.
Yeah, I need a chair that doesn't move because otherwise I'm just gonna move it.
Okay, there have been a bunch of comments. Oh, this person's spamming this comment. That's good. Guys, we're here. I don't know what you're saying. Okay. Okay. ADHD. No. I thought I had ADHD. This guy? Okay.
What I'll say is, yeah, many founders do. It's a good thing.
Okay, wait. Someone said something that I wanted to.
Oh, this is a good thing with staking. Okay, so what is going to happen with staking is there's going to be a withdrawal fee that's coming out when staking goes, but there's going to be something tied with it after. So what we're working on now is we're going to be working with the limit break team, or at least using the limit break team's contracts, ERC20C. They're called app tokens. So what we're also going to introduce soon is if you want to withdraw a spend only token, an ERC20 token, we're going to call it vPixel, I'm pretty sure. vPixel, what you'll be able to do with it is you'll be able to spend it inside of the game or stake it, and there won't be any withdrawal fee. So basically, you'll still be able to withdraw on chain and stake on chain if you want without paying any fee, or you'll be able to spend it in other games. So you'll be able to spend it inside of Pixel Dungeons, or you'll be able to spend it inside of Runeverse or whatever other partner game there is. And you won't pay any fee for doing that.
It's gonna be really cool. I'm very excited. It really like hones in the pixel kind of ecosystem.
What would nobody spend more in game than the game over? So yes, if nobody's spending in the game, then the game is over. If I'm being honest, that means that we failed. But staking is interesting because what staking does is it introduces the concept of multiple games working together, right? So how staking is going to work, just so that you guys understand, it'll be a little bit more obvious when it's out and we can show you. I mean, I think we demoed it yesterday in the staging environment, or last week in the staging environment. But how it works basically is multiple games will be there, and what you'll have to do is when you want to stake Pixel, you'll choose a game that you stake to, right? So if Core Pixels is generating revenue, that revenue will be returned to the Core Pixel stakers, right? If Pixel Dungeons has in-game spend that they want to go and distribute back to stakers, their specific in-game spend will be given out to the Pixel Dungeon stakers. If Forgotten Runes, this also applies to Forgotten Runes. One thing that people don't understand about the Forgotten Runes deal that we're doing and that partnership is they're going to have things to spend in game with Pixel too, right? We're not just giving Forgotten Runes tokens. They're also going to be using the Pixel token to monetize. And some of the revenue that they make in game with the Pixel token will also be given to people who stake to Forgotten Runes inside of this system, right? It's a really cool system for that reason. So yeah, the whole point is we want to build a sustainable ecosystem, right? And the idea is we want to basically create systems where the economic in-game activity is tied to the rewards that you're getting, right? It's a way better, more sustainable system, and it's a different approach to the earnings too. In fact, there's going to be a bit of a balance. Like here's one extreme that we could have done. I think there's kind of a spectrum of rewards and reward liquidity. But imagine if we said, this is one thing we talked about, but we're not doing this, or at least not to this extreme. But I just want to kind of give you guys a picture of like, fully liquid pixel rewards versus the other side of the spectrum that we could do. We're in the middle ground with this withdraw deposit system and this app token. But imagine if we had made a system where you actually never got any pixel rewards straight up for in-game pixel, and you only got stake only pixel, and then we gave out rewards that way, right? It's kind of hard to imagine, but then basically all of the earnings in game would be tied to how much spend there is in game, right? Which is kind of interesting. So there's incentives there where if the community starts to use the game more and spend the tokens more, that's how the earnings are distributed, right? And there's alignment with that too. So you're basically not giving out more tokens that are getting spent inside of the game when it comes to emissions, right? Your return on reward spends exactly 1 in that scenario. Now, there's other interesting ways to do it where you can get a return on reward spend higher. And I saw somebody ask about dungeons. What about pixel dungeons? People are extracting pixel because it's very easy to earn a lot of it. Actually, that's not true. So I have a graph of their return on reward spend, and they're actually. Let me pull it up right now. Yeah, over the last week or two, it fluctuates, but they've actually had a couple of weeks where the return on reward spend is over 1. And by default, Pixel Dungeons, the return on reward spend is like if they weren't trying to do any growth, their return on reward spend would be over 1. Last week, the return on reward spend was 114%, which is actually like technically profitable, right? So by definition, that's not extract. Like people can't extract in that situation. Now some weeks they've been going a little bit lower than that 1 mark, but they actually have never been. They've always kind of been floor with pixels, and that's kind of been the direction there. Their rewards were a little crazy for a couple weeks there, and we got on top of that. But actually, most of the rewards are going for different initiatives. If you guys see bots in Pixel Dungeons, we have the data there. The bots are in the free dungeons. So if you're playing free dungeons, then that's where you might see them. But that's not where any of the rewards are really going in the free dungeons. How that business model works is like basically 90% of the revenue of that particular game is in the high stakes dungeons. And that's also where most of the rewards are for that reason too. The free to play dungeons are like a very minor source of rewards. But yeah, their return on reward spend this month is actually better than Core Pixels. So there's actually more extraction in Core Pixels than there is in Pixel Dungeons right now.
Okay. Someone just said there's a couple comments I want to address quickly. So when will you add Quicksilver utility to soil? We've gone quite a few weeks with no update. There was an update yesterday, actually. So make sure you're subscribed to the Pixels post so you can get it emails every time we do an update. And then someone else said, I've been trying to plant astrocactus since yesterday. All the soil is occupied. People are being selfish, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So this is the soil kind of going to call it maybe like an issue. The soil issue right now is that people are leaving their crops. They take a long time to die, and then people are annoyed because they can't find crops, all of this. So this is actually a conversation we've been having with landowners specifically for a while now, and something internally that we have also been talking about and trying to find a good solution for a while now. So rest assured, we are working on this. We know this is a very annoying thing that happens, and we're working on a solution. I can't leak anything quite yet because our developers are trying to figure out exactly what they can do to make this like best case scenario. But yeah, we are aware, and we're working on this.
Yeah. Okay. There are some good questions too. How is Quicksilver doing? Are there any adjustments planned, or is it performing well? Yeah, looking at the data, if I'm being like blunt, and I haven't really talked about this with the team, it's just like it's actually not performing that well. There might be a few reasons. Part of it is likely due to mispricing. I think it's a little too expensive, most likely for most users. Part of it is because we need to increase the tier 3 and the tier 4 demand and actually make it worth it. This kind of ties in with merchant ships too. And yeah, part of it is it needs to be used in more industries as well. Right now, the use is quite limited, right? So we're talking about what we're going to do with that because it is a cool feature. And it actually might help some of the issues inside of the game too if we make it a bit more accessible. I don't quite know what the solution is yet, but we are probably going to be talking about that later today on the team to figure out how to make it more used or like a bigger part of the loop because it might solve some of the issues with things like soil crowding, right? If it makes sense to buy it. right? Right now, it feels too expensive to use it on just one soil. So nobody's really using it. I think I looked at the numbers. If I'm being completely transparent, I think there was like 2,000 pixels spent on it yesterday. That's not very much. For comparison, there's normally like 1,000x that. um, on other in-game items, like there's normally like 200 or 300,000 pixels spent on coins each day, and then there was 2,000 spent on Quicksilver. So yeah, clearly it's not as useful to you guys as we would like. And that's also part of what we need to do here at Pixels. Like we have to build features and figure out how to use them best. I saw a comment in the Discord yesterday. Somebody was basically like, Luke, I want you to stop talking about Pixels as an experiment. I'm sorry, but there's no other way that we can do this here. I know there are a lot of people that play the game, but the reality is nobody's quite figured out Web3 gaming yet. And there are some games that are doing some really interesting stuff. Like I'm looking at, I think Cambria is great, for example. I think Forgotten Runes is great. Finally, there's more teams shipping games. I feel like we were the only game out for like a year, which is crazy. And really the only game getting any attention inside of Web3 for like a year, from February to like, yeah, basically this last February. And then finally off the grid got like a little bit of attention in like November, December last year. But yeah, now we see more people innovating and there's more ideas that we can pull from. And that kind of goes into the point of like the core game and what we're thinking about it with it too, right? So, it's interesting. I can't help but think some of the sentiment around Pixels is market driven, but it's also true. Where the whole point and the plan that we've been working on at Pixels is Chapter 2 is supposed to be fixing some of the game economics so we can start to build out better Endgame inside of Pixels. Reality is, it basically took us like much longer to get Chapter 2 to where it needed to be so that we could start to build out the Endgame. I would say where Pixels is at right now is what we had hoped Chapter 2 would look like 6 to 7 months ago, right? So it took a little bit longer than we wanted to. And yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Guys, I'm literally sick. I'm actually really sick right now. So no, I fully believe in Luke. Luke, keep going. Sorry. Go
Yeah.
on.
Okay. What I will say is like, guys, I really feel like we're receptive to feedback. Like I'm in the Discord listening to you guys all the time. We've implemented a ton of the feedback that you guys ask for. I will also say we get like 500 pieces of feedback a day. And then people are like, you didn't listen to us. But we've been doing landowner AMAs quite often, right? We've been listening to feedback from you guys and doing these AMAs quite often. We've been getting a lot of the stuff you guys have been asking for. Like we literally have a list where it's like, these are the specific things asked for. These are how we like implemented them. Right. And then, yeah, people say that we're not listening to them. And then they also make comments like that, being like, you guys are idiots. F you guys, scammers, that kind of stuff. And then they're like, you're not listening to us with that. Those are the types of comments that are not helpful, is what I'll say. So there are different types of comments that are helpful and not helpful, right? Comments from people who care about what we're doing and want to see the game become better, those are very helpful. Comments from people who are only earn oriented and just want quick ROI, that is not helpful. And then the comments that are just mean and nasty, yes, we're going to ignore them, to be completely honest. Like if you don't give us the respect back also and at least talk to us in a way where it seems like you're trying to be helpful, I'm sorry, but we're dedicating our lives to this. Like literally the team, this is not a 40-hour-a-week team. This team works really, really hard and we're trying to make the best thing possible. And we're still showing up every single week, not just every single week, every single day, right? So we would appreciate some respect back, as it's not easy to be building here in markets like this. It's not easy to see death threats. It's not easy to see all these negative comments all the time that are not just like, again, feedback is not a negative comment that I think is bad. Criticism is not bad. That kind of thing, it's like you're not helping anything, right? So what we're looking for the next stages of community building and the future of Pixels is we want to be working with people in the community who care about the long term of Pixels, want to see the game become as good as possible, and want to see Web3 become as good as possible too, right? We're still early inside of Web3 gaming. teams are starting to figure some things out. Like Pixels figured some stuff out, right? We were the second Web3 game that hit 1 million DAA. That doesn't mean we figured everything out. And there's still a long way to go to actually make a Web3 game, an ecosystem that's sustainable for years and years and years, right? Nobody's figured that one out yet. And that's the work together that we need to do, right? And we're committed to doing that. We're going to be here every day. We're going to be shipping. I hope you hear and see the passion towards this. But yeah, we also, especially when the market's like this, like we need a little bit of working together energy to do this right, right? So I promise you we're listening. And this is a stage of Pixels where, again, we're rethinking some of our strategy from previously. I saw somebody, let me pull up a comment here. How does staking affect return on rewards? Both are your ideas. I have to return pixels to get them. If I stake, I won't get any, huh? Yeah, I don't quite understand this comment, but let me just kind of dig into this and like explain to you guys how we're thinking about this, right? So one, if you have in-game pixel, you're already staking your pixel. You don't have to do anything, right?
I think
And you can spend that pixel if you want.
I am excited for that because that means that I don't have to go through the process of staking things externally and stuff because I'm lazy.
I have a question to say, mate. How many people have actually staked before? Because it's kind of scary at first. And if you have that token staked, normally you can't do anything with it, right? This is really cool what we're doing here. Basically, if you have pixel in game and you've been earning, you're staking automatically, right? And then you can still spend it if you want, right? So you don't have to do anything. You're already staking the token just by having it in game. And then you can still use it in game too. Now, where are the rewards from staking coming from? Again, they're tied so that we're aligned, right, with the in-game spend and economic activity, right? So this is probably the most sustainable way to do rewards, right? And what's really interesting is, imagine that we didn't have any ecosystem incentives anymore, right? It still aligns the long-term holders of the token with the in-game activity, right? And it also feels a little bit less weird. Like I think the best way to describe this withdrawal tax or this withdrawal fee is to kind of explain it in the terms of staking too, right? So withdrawals, for example, there's a lot of withdrawals in the game right now. I was actually kind of shocked when we re-looked at some of the data of how instant some people withdraw their pixel. Like some people are doing it basically every single day and hold almost no pixel ever, and then they immediately sell it, right? What we're about to do is we're about to put a withdrawal fee on that, right? So essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking pixel away from the sellers and giving it to the people holding the token, right? Starts to get a little interesting when we're thinking with that, right? And that's what I'm trying to say. There's like some fundamental changes that we're going to be making to the earning structure and how the token works that might make a few people upset because maybe it will be harder to instantly sell the token moving forward. And maybe you're going to earn a little bit less than you did before. And I know that will maybe make us even lose some users too. But there's two things that we need to be thinking about when we think about the future of Pixels. We need to be thinking about making the game as good as possible. None of that changes. And then we also need to be thinking about how to make the token ecosystem as strong as possible too. And what we need to do for the token is we need to make sure that the people who are believing in the long term are the ones getting the token, right? So again, how do we do that? There's a few different things. Like part of what we've been working on internally is the data science side. So we kind of look at in-game spend. We look at like how you use the token inside of the game. And the reward targeting has been a big part of what we're doing there in smart rewards. Like we've been trying to give the token in the first place the people who are more likely to use it inside of the game, right? That is combined with making the game fun and giving more reasons for people to use the token. There's other systems like Quicksilver, which has not been as effective as we want. So we're going to look at how that we do it too. That also are different alignments that kind of tie in the goals of this game and ecosystem and the token all in together, right? So again, the whole point is we want to give out tokens that people who help the ecosystem grow, and the people who are holding the token and like believe in the ecosystem in the long run deserve to be rewarded more than people who are instantly selling it, right? Again, a little controversial, but that is a different framing that we're thinking about moving forward. So yeah, that's also been combined with some of the other stuff that we're doing. Again, the reputation changes are big, and that's going to be a bigger focus in the short run. on how we use this reputation system a little bit better than we have been. The reputation system is very flexible and it is a really good tool. If you guys remember back into the days of Barry, we actually used reputation and change requirements quite often to tackle botting of Barry. And this marketplace change was kind of a callback to that, where we know if we increase reputation to a certain metric, like 1500, for example, to the marketplace, it's going to do a lot for item inflation. And that gives us more room to work with when it comes to the game economics, right? But yeah. See, every day dump my pixel for Ron. ROI most important, not stake. This is the exact kind of thing I'm talking about, to be completely honest. Yeah, so again, if you're earn motivated like this, that's great. Maybe do what you can still. You're a DAU inside of the game, but also you're hurting the people who believe in the project in the long term, right? So actually, my focus is protecting the people who like the game the most and building a game for the people who like the game most and the ecosystem most too, right? I want to be thinking about the long term and what Pixel looks like for 5 years. And the people who are like only ROI important and don't want to stake, we're actually going to be favoring the people who want to be in the ecosystem for the long run. And that is a difference. And if that makes you want to leave, I'm actually not so sorry, if I'm being completely honest, because our focus will be on the people who believe in the long run. And we want to reward those people more. So yeah, on that note too, that does tie in a little bit with the land. One thing that we'll be doing too is for the in-game pixel staked, we'll likely be adding a boost for land as well. And you'll see what that looks like officially soon. So hopefully that system will go live at launch. The in-game staking system, we're like, yeah, we have to trial that basically. And we have to decide a distribution. We'll likely, how the in-game staking will work is that your in-game balance will likely be snapshotted on either, it could be a daily, a weekly, or a monthly cadence. For the first one, it might be monthly. That way we have like a bit of leeway to figure some things out. And yeah, there will likely be a boost for landowners who hold in-game pixel on their pixel state. So again, our focus will be around people who believe in the game in the long term. Our focus will be making the game fun for the people that like the game and want to give feedback on making the game more fun, not just increasing their earnings, right? Earnings are a part of the game, but again, if the earnings are the only focus of the game, this game will not succeed. And it's a different audience maybe than what we've been building with. So what this might require, and we've done this a couple times in the company's history, right? It's funny. I was looking back at chats over the last couple of years in our Discord lately. And I was looking at like a chat with a landowner whale from like 2022. And yeah, it was interesting because it was very similar conversations to now, right? But it's crazy because we've come so far from that conversation that they had, where they were very frustrated because they didn't get instant returns, all of that immediately. And the crazy thing is that they had just stuck with the project for a couple more months. Things would have been very different for them. Even if you guys remember, I think Pranksy dumped like 100 lands in like
Wow, that was a while ago.
I think he did it in August 2023, like literally a month before we blew up, which was kind of crazy.
I
But
remember that because I remember thinking, "Oop."
yeah. I mean, this kind of stuff happens, and basically, I think what's interesting about building in public and building like so out in the open is this is kind of a natural cycle with any company where you have some things go really well, then things start to break. You have to rethink some of the strategy, and then you go through like a phase of like intense growth, and then you might go like a little bit backwards and then go back forward. Most people don't build like we're doing, where they're doing like they're letting you dig into so much things like this basically. Like one option that we could have done is just like not do any AMAs, not release any metrics publicly, and just come out of the woodwork every 4 months being like, hey, here's an update. I don't like that though, because I think there's advantages and disadvantages to it too, right? The advantage is there might be, when you're not so public, like a little bit less scrutiny in the short run, but also you're going to be missing that feedback from the people that matter the most. So again, our feedback is from who we care the most. And yeah, from one second, I'm checking this out. Looking at some questions. Our feedback or our concerns from the people who care about the game the most, right? So that's what we're gonna be working on. Yesterday, you announced the rep for adding pixels, but if it's removed, you're taking away reputation. Do you think you're doing things right? Yeah, what I'll say is the reputation system, especially because we just introduced this change to the marketplace, we're gonna need to look at a little bit more over the next little bit. One thing that we're thinking about are what are some easy free to play ways to add more reputation quickly. A good example would be, I've been anti KYC because I think it's really, really hard to grow a game if you require KYC. I just don't think it's possible. It's funny, like I've been wanting to do like some testing on some like real money gaming websites. Like I wanted to go to Stake, for example, and just see what they do. And they require KYC, and I'm like, oh, I keep meaning to go to it. I'm too lazy to upload my passport, right? Like if you're trying to build a game for a consumer audience, you have to think about the mobile audience, right? Because I think that is what you want to think about in the long run. Like who plays casual games right now? And if you have a loading screen that's too long in a Web 2 game, you lose so many people. Imagine requiring a passport upload and a face scan. You would not have anybody play the game, or at least not as many as you would need, right? But there might be some interesting things that we can do where we might be able to have you unlock some extra privileges. Like, for example, like doing something like that to access marketplace much quicker or get more reputation much quicker too. The idea of reputation, the whole point of it is basically to make sure that more real people are using some of the features that we want them to be using, right? And then the other thing too that we've been thinking about, or I've been thinking about a lot, are what are some softer ways to add things that would make us know that. There's some easier solutions to potentially, like if you connected your sex account, like if you connected a Binance account or a Coinbase account, they've already KYC'd you, right? So I know if you have a Coinbase or a Binance account, there's a much, much higher likelihood that this is one account per one user, right? Because you probably don't have 100 Binance accounts, right? Maybe your mom and your sister also have a Binance account and you hook that up, but it's a little bit different, right? And then the other thing that we're looking at too, and this is kind of like what we're doing on the data science side that you don't see on the back end, is a lot of the work that we're doing is building out universal profile systems, and we're doing some stuff called fuzzy matching. So that's getting better and better, what we're working on there. And the idea is I want to basically build a system that connects every single wallet that a person might own to one account identifier. And there's like basically ways that we can do this with data science as well, where if we see that like certain funds have been moved between wallets, there's high likelihood that these might be the same wallets. And we have other account identifiers, like we do some device and network fingerprinting. That gives us like some likelihood of like, oh, this is coming from the same computer or the same household. All of this other stuff too.
Only bots do not KYC real players. Surely they do if they really love the game.
Yeah. Now, what I will say is KYC is not foolproof, and actually, there's way more fraud in KYC than you would expect. Like, you can go out. If I wanted to go out and buy, maybe I shouldn't say this. I'll say a different one. That's not a partner of ours. If I wanted to go and buy 100 Coinbase accounts, there's ways to do it, and it's a little shadier than you would think too. So it's not 100% perfect. But
well, it's funny. Right under this comment, someone says not everyone will want to add their account, right? So here's two very differing perspectives on it.
Yeah, and the whole point is it's supposed to be optional, where if you didn't want to do that, maybe go buy VIP then, right? So there's different options, right? It's just supposed to, and I definitely would not require it. Like I don't think we should require that. That said, I think we are going to be adding login with Binance soon because there's maybe some opportunities there. Yeah.
Extend AMA duration to 2 hours. Oh, I didn't mean it. I meant to click on this. Are you saying that purely because for the energy, or you just want to see our faces longer? What's the truth?
Not a fan of KYC. I mean, yes, I would agree. So that's why I don't think you should have the only path be KYC to get some of this stuff. but some people might want to do that to shortcut, right? But yeah, exactly. I would never exactly. I don't think having KYC as a requirement for anything is a good idea. But again, maybe we give KYC as an option for somebody that doesn't want to buy VIP if they wanted to add access the marketplace quickly, or there's maybe some other things that we can do too. So again, I'm not saying that KYC is like going to happen, but I'm saying there might be some like extra benefits that we could add if you wanted to do that, right? Now, again, I think KYC is kind of a killer to growing a game, and we would never have it be in the beginning of the flow.
Upcoming event this week or next week or Easter event. All I'm going to say is clearly I'm leaking something here, and stay tuned. Something might be coming today. So, fun little, simple, kind of annoying event. There will also be an energy party on Monday and some little giveaways. It's going to be fun. It'll be fun. So stay tuned.
Staked equals reputation, 100%. If you stake Pixel, you should get more reputation.
Oh, okay. Oh, no, okay, go on.
Oh, what were you gonna say?
Nothing important. Keep going.
Talk about things that interest us. Changes in the game that are worth it, and the rep you said yesterday. Yeah. So the other stuff that we're working on now too is we're thinking about. We talk about Endgame a lot. Like, what will make pixels? How can we complete the core pixels loop as quick as possible? Now, that's kind of what we're setting the next intention of. And we have to kind of figure out how we build that as quick as we can. One of the issues with pixels in its current state right now is the only end game inside of the game. When I say end game, again, I'm going to repeat what end game means. End game is the type of things that you do inside of the game when you're a high level or you've been playing for a long time, is the task board and now kind of merchant ships, right? But that's not really end game, and that's not really like fun content for the long run, right? The games that you love the most, like for example, I grew up playing RuneScape. RuneScape endgame was, okay, I'm going to try to get all my skills to 99 so I get the skill cape, or I'm going to do the really hard quests inside of the game that are like crazy to do. Slayer was kind of endgame where there were like crazy tasks, and like barely anybody levels that one up to 99, but if you do, it's a big accomplishment. Or there's PvP that ends up being a lot of the end game for users too, where PvP is basically a very interesting end game because there's risk and there's elements of loss. And I think a game like Cambria shows a really good example of that core loop of basically crafting to risk. And yeah, we think that we need some of that too. Now the question is, how do we get that out in a timely manner now that we have some of the economics in a better spot than they used to be? Because the idea with this is basically task board and all these other systems inside of the game become more compelling when there's other things to do inside of the game other than just the task board, right? They kind of fuel that other loop. So that's the focus right now. And what we're trying to figure out is, we're going to go out and build end game content, but there might be ways to shortcut it. Like we talked about acquisitions previously, right? And like we kind of did that, right? Like Pixel Dungeons is in the ecosystem now. But there might be ways that maybe we can, for example, integrate Pixel Dungeons even deeper in the core loop. Like for example, what if crafted stuff that you had in the game like worked in Pixel Dungeons, or we're going to go out and build it ourselves. If we build it ourselves from scratch, the end game takes a little bit longer to get there. There's also maybe incorporations that we can do with things like the Pets app, right? This game is coming along even better. And this will be going live in like late June, early July. Early access might come in May. But yeah, that's kind of the focus right now too. So again, let us know the kinds of features that you guys want to see for what chapter 3 would be. Now, chapter 3, I want to make it clear. Chapter 3 will not be like a big economic rework inside of the game. We already did that with chapter 2. Chapter 2 is supposed to be basically like changing some of the game economics. And there's still maybe some tweaks that we need to do, but the tweaks become way easier with the chapter 3 when there's end game and like things for the resources to do. And that's kind of the next steps of what we're gonna be doing at Pixels. Like, what is that next loop that is actually needle moving, and what is the next loop that like will make the game more fun?
Okay, not to call you out, but you just said that chapter 3 won't be a huge economic change, and then you said chapter 3 will have economic changes. So do you want to?
All right. So what I mean by that is like we're not going to change like how industries work, or like maybe slightly, but it's not going to be like a whole rework like the task board system or like the industry system when we talk about the work in chapter 3. Now there still might be some things that we need to think about to make it work better, right? Like some of the chapter 2 stuff, but it's not like we're going to be redoing chapter 2 to do chapter 3. Basically, chapter 3 is supposed to be new stuff, not fixing the old stuff. Okay.
Couple minutes left. Although a few of you were saying you want us to stick around for 2 hours. Respectfully, I am ill. So I will not. But I appreciate your kind words.
Soils issue. Yes, the soils issue is currently like there's actively devs working on this solution now. Fishing needs mini games. It's hard to level up. It's slow and costly, and no reward afterwards. The task board's hard. Quicksilver expensive. There's really lots of stuff that can be improved and not focused on profit only. Yeah, so I would agree. So kind of some of the strategy is I think we're going to spend a little bit of time just cleaning some stuff up over the next couple weeks. Like we already have been a little bit, right? Like some of these changes that we made in the last week or two are like that. And then it moves to focus on only new stuff. So in order to actually get the game into the spot that we need to, we do need to actually focus very tightly. Because the more that we focus and the more simple that we keep things, then the quicker that we can get these features that will actually be really needle moving out, which would be more things to do besides just task board. If there were many new mini games that constantly change, that would be fun. Yeah, so I did just say we need to focus, but there are some other things coming out with this. Like we'll have some more UGC style mini games that you guys can create coming out quite soon. I've seen some demos from the devs and they're pretty cool. How will on-chain staking work? Yeah, so basically, somebody also asked about where pixel staking. You'll just go to staking.pixels.xyz. You'll choose a game that you want to stake to, and you'll stake. It's actually very simple. I think you can do it in like 3 or 4 clicks if you want to. It's not very complicated, which is great. The idea was to make it very self-explanatory when you go there. And then, yeah, we'll have guides and stuff ready. And we'll probably show like content creators and that kind of stuff, the UX earlier, so they have content ready to go.
Yeah, it's very straightforward though. It's very simple. Okay, when plot buildings start working? You'll just have to wait and see. Okay.
Pixel Dungeons kill the game. Guys, Pixel Dungeons, I didn't, that's
Doing
not,
really
yeah, the return on reward spend is better than core pixels most months. It was not for a couple of weeks and that's it. But yeah, there's less extraction happening in that game than other games. And then also the amount of pixel that they're giving out is much, much lower. They get 2 million pixel a month to give out to players versus like, 22 million given out in task board. And then maybe this is a good question to end things on. Okay, so Happy Day. What are the current visions and goals of the Pixels team? Great question. And yeah, maybe this also kind of aligns with this question. Luke, to save this game, the only thing to do is stop to give so many pixels, remove nonsense off-chain token, life preserver, instead use those pixels. Yeah, let's go back to that other question, but like it's kind of in the same mindset. let me just pull up the other check. Where's that question? Oh yeah. What are the current vision and goals of the Pixels team? Yeah, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to make one, the best game possible, two, that has a sustainable token economy, and then three, um, if we prove these two things, like help other Web3 games do the same thing also. So again, our sell becomes much better if our game performs as best as possible, and if we're making games that are fun, people love, and have sustainable token economies. And then if we do that, what we can do is we can start selling some of the tools that we've built for our own team to other teams too. I think the proof of play model is very interesting. If you guys haven't been following Pirate Nation, what they're doing is they're building an infrastructure stack. What they did is they want to build their own game inside of Web3, and they needed a bunch of tech to go out and build that game, right? Because they want to do their game fully on chain like nobody else has done before. In the same way, what our focus has been is we want to figure out how to build a play to earn game in a way that nobody else has done before. One that would be sustainable and one that would be smarter with how it gives out rewards. Now, there's still a lot to do to get there. Clearly we haven't quite cracked all the sustainability aspects yet, but we have been making month-to-month progress. And the more progress that we make, the better sell that we have to other teams too. And the cool thing is, the whole focus is basically around sustainability here, right? Like we're all in on making it so that we have a very sustainable ecosystem. And what that means is we have to basically create systems that reward people for staying inside of the ecosystem rather than those that are just selling the token immediately, right? We want to reward basically stakers. We want to reward long-term believers. We want to reward players who use the token inside of the game. We want to reward people who like the game and are having fun. We want to reward less the people who don't care about those things, right? So there's a bunch of different things we need to do to achieve that. One is like the game has to be fun. Two is we have to, be smart with how we give out rewards. And then three is we need the right system in place, like staking and withdrawal fees and spend only tokens and this kind of stuff that we're about to introduce in order to help achieve that as well. So yeah, that's kind of the vision and goal right now. Like build out the best game that we can that uses Web3 in a sustainable way, prove out the model and expand it after that.
Okay. All right, we can wrap it up there then. This was a good one. This is good AMA. Lots of like really intense discussion, which is always fun. So thank you guys all. Yes, I already kind of low-key leaked. There is maybe something coming. Pay attention to your emails and Discord over the next day. And with that, we will see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.